Hi, this is Connie Moser. I'd like to welcome you back to another edition of Nights at the Round Table. My guest this evening is John Gray. He's a return visitor. John's very knowledgeable. He's a CPA and has been in practice since 1976. And he specializes in budget issues, and we are going to talk today about flat tax. So welcome. Welcome you, John.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Sure.
We're going to dive right in.
Okay.
First, I want to know, can you explain to me in 50,000 words or less, what is a flat tax?
Okay. Let me start off by saying what the flat tax isn't.
Okay.
The flat tax is not drastic budget cuts to all sorts of social service programs, things envisioned by a Ron Paul type of candidacy. No disrespect to Ron Paul, but people hear the word flat tax and they think it's just cutting out every social service program in the world. In fact, the flat tax that we're talking about in Prince William County will actually increase funding to some of the social service programs in Prince William County.
How would that happen?
Well, because the way that would happen, let's go back to how the budget is developed.
Okay.
All right? Let's go into the notion that there's one house in Prince William County. I bought one house in Prince William County. I went to McCourt and I said, I want police, I want fire, I want a pool, I'd like a library, I need a judge to take care of that. How much are you going to charge me? And the county says, well, the cost of those services is going to be $5,400, $5,400. So we're going to tax you $5,400. All right? I can't afford $5,400. They said, okay, fine. What we'll do is we'll only charge you $3,500.
How can they do that?
Because they're going to cut the services, but I'm not aware of that. I don't realize that. All I've heard is that you're going to provide me the services I want. My kids are going to have a school, I'm going to have some roads, a fire protection, police protection, a library, and a judge in case I need it. I didn't hear the part that they couldn't provide that. All right? The county government isn't the federal government. They just can't print money. The only way that they can fund that difference between the cost of the services and what they're actually charging me, okay, is two ways, either issuing debt, okay, or cutting services. And the county has done both of those.
Right.
And that's fine. That's understandable. They're counting on me to be here in the number of years, and several years down the road, my kids aren't going to use the schools. I'm not going to use the fire department every day. I'm not going to use the library every day. That's part of the equation, all right? The trouble is that the county has gone in and cut back those services to the point where what they're doing is they're cutting the service, but they're also saving some money for the future, and that's not bad. I need to do that too.
But you mean when they cut services, you mean like core services with police and fire?
Absolutely. All right. Like they told me 5 years ago, we're going to get 10 new police officers every year. Well, because of economics, since 2007, they've cut that back to 5 new police officers a year, and for the last 2 years, they haven't added any new police officers. Meanwhile,
And yet the population has increased, right?
Population has increased, and my taxes stayed the same at $5,500. All right?
So they didn't get lower.
They didn't go lower because my property has gone down 30% in value. So my taxes really are a lot higher today than they were 5 years ago based on property values. All right?
Oh, I totally get that.
Oh, so the point is that the county has first told me I will provide you $5 in services, all right, but they've only given me $4 in services. And I'm starting to feel it. My kids are coming home from school, they're saying, oh, we don't have the supplies, Dad, can you go and buy some supplies? All right? The food isn't good anymore in school because the quality of the food. I'm making an oversimplification,
Right.
but the point is that they still charged me $5, but they only gave me $4 in value. The reason for that, last August, the county executive, in a stunning revelation, said exactly that to the Board of Supervisors. When you ask to spend $4 on anything, I budget that will cost $5. That is a stunning revelation.
That's kind of a fudge factor, though. Haven't you ever, like when you keep your checkbook and you just round off you leave the cents off, you don't count that, and you just round up. And at the end of the year, you have a nice little sum, you go out and buy something special.
That's my money. I never gave the authority to the county to charge me $5 but only give me $4 in services. If I hire a contractor to do something in my house and he says he's going to charge me $5, in that $5 is his profit margin, but he doesn't have the right to sit there and say, I'm going to cut out the quality of the product that I told you I was going to give you for $5. I'm only going to cut it because I only want to spend $4. I want that extra dollar. They don't have the right to do that.
No, you would sue them for that.
Right, exactly. Well, this is basically the same thing. They've cut back the quality of the services, and we can see that in our schools. We can see it in social services. You can see it all over the county. They didn't waste that dollar, though. What they did was they put it into a savings account, and you and I would say that that's fine. Okay, everybody has to save. You save part of your salary, I save part of my salary. We have to save for the future. The trouble is that money has grown so big over the years. Over the last 5 years, that savings account for the county has averaged $16 million in over-collection of taxes. $16 million.
Okay, here's where it gets confusing for me. So last year, say last budget cycle, they had $16 million
Sure.
saved. And they had the previous budget cycle, they also had $16 million saved.
Right.
So do we in fact have $32 million in those 2 years?
Oh, absolutely. All right. Now, they account for some of where they're going to spend it. The trouble is they're spending it on things that we haven't asked them to spend it, because they've told us we can't afford 10 new police officers a year. Matter of fact, we can't afford any new police officers. We can't afford any new fire safety. So just within public safety, we haven't expanded the force in the last 2 years. Okay. The trouble is that they've still collected the same level of tax dollars, said we can't afford it, but then took what they didn't spend on this additional police and fire that they told us they would give us, and they put that into a savings account and spent it on, new technology.
Well, do they take that savings and apply it to like their items that depreciate and have to be replaced, like police cars?
That's already built into the original factor.
So it has nothing to do with the
No,
savings?
this is extra spending that they're doing with your and my tax dollars, okay? What we're saying, okay, what the flat tax is going to do is we're saying do the economics in Prince William County in the United States in the next several years, all right? We've got unsustainable spending at the federal level, all right? Higher taxes, as everyone has seen since January 1st. We have sequestration coming in. Multitudes of people, I think we all know people in Prince William County.
Some of us know people personally
who have lost their jobs. These are real factors, okay? Yet real estate taxes on Tuesday, February 12th, today's the 15th, just 3 days ago, the county said, we're going to increase your real estate taxes by 4%. Stunning in view of the fact that people are losing their jobs to sequestration, all right, alone, all right?
Well, I have to tell you the truth, John. If you don't have a job, it doesn't matter whether they raise them 4% or no percent. You're not going to be able to pay your taxes.
Well, that's the whole point. Okay, so why are you raising it? What we're saying is this pool of money that's called carryover that the Board of Supervisors divvies up in August of every year, okay? They decide where that's going. What we're saying is that if you've come up with $16 million in unspent taxpayer funds, you've told me you're going to spend this money on police, fire, schools, whatever the menu is, all right? And you didn't spend $16 million. You need to spend that on what I've contracted with you to spend it on. You don't have the right to take it and spend it on what you want, i.e., what also came out last week, the school board came out with a budget and said, we're going to put in a $15 million Olympic-size swimming pool in the 12th high school over in the Coles district. People are losing their jobs. People are still losing their houses. Social services isn't being funded properly. People are still in need, okay? But we're spending $15 million on a pool. The point of the flat tax in Prince William County is to redirect the spending to what the people want, okay? It's their money, it's their spending. If you've told me you're going to spend $10 on police, don't spend $8 to spend $2 someplace else. You're cutting the protection. Now, I said over the last several years, it's averaged $16 million, what's called the carryover funds. They are already projecting, this is February, all right, the middle of February, they're already projecting that the fiscal budget surplus next year, okay, next June, will be another $16 million. A surplus in government language is just a profit. They're making $16 million more, but yet they're still telling us, well, we can't afford all this stuff. We can't afford to give teachers pay increases. We can't do the step increases. We can't do merit raises, all right? Trouble is that the schools are falling far behind.
Sure.
All right, and we saw that with the SAT scores that came out lately. They came out about 2 or 3 weeks ago, if I remember correctly. The SAT scores were the lowest in the Northern Virginia area. All right.
But most people say that, you know, just throwing money at education is not indicative of higher test scores.
But we're not throwing money at education because what's happening is that we're not retaining the best of the teachers, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful manner towards the teachers. But the trouble is, if our SAT scores don't go up, if we don't have higher national merit many more national merit scholars, all right, the world-class education that we profess to have, that our numbers simply aren't improving, okay, we're not going to attract businesses to come to Prince William County. Right. We need businesses to come to Prince William County. We need them to help support the real estate tax base.
Oh, I'm all for that.
All right? Businesses don't use police, fire, the schools, the libraries, but yet they're still paying the same rate, okay? So they're actually subsidizing what you and I can't cover in our real estate taxes.
Do businesses then pay an additional fee to Prince William County? Do they pay additional taxes to Prince William County?
Yeah, businesses grossing over $250,000 pay a tax called BPO, Business Professional Occupational License Tax. It generated last year $22 million. That's not a big factor.
More than your surplus.
Well, maybe that's what's generating it. Okay, but the point is, even if it was the surplus, if you can specifically identify that, well, that needs to be reinvested back into what county taxpayers want, not what 8 people sitting on the Board of Supervisors decide that we need, or we're going to support the building of a $15 million pool that 414,000 people in Prince William County will not have access to, or an arts center, quite frankly, okay, which a lot of people don't have access to. We're not providing the services. The flat tax proposal that we have is simply saying, take this money that's been paid in by taxpayers, it's their money, and redirect it to what they want, police, fire, education. Let's upgrade those systems. When the economy improves, which will be years down the road, well, then maybe we can afford those extraneous things. But right now we can't. We can't afford to increase taxes, and we need to take the surplus that we have and reinvest it for the taxpayer.
When people complain about taxes, about their high taxes, and they say they can't afford taxes, but they do want these services. They want the fire, and they also want the nice things. They want the hill. Not they in the overall encompassing, but there are a lot of people that enjoy that. And I do think it's important for Prince William County to project an image, and if we want businesses to locate here, we have to have some reason for them to come. If we look like some little backwater town, I don't think we're going to be very attractive to like Lockheed Martin, or, you know, well, we don't have any Class A architecture, so that's not going to happen anyway. But I don't, a mid-sized company, say a company with 400 employees, and they are in the district right now, what would make them want to move here? Their tax rate would be lower, correct, than if they were in DC now with 400 employees. What would attract a business to move here to Prince William County?
Well, the amenities, of course, but my point is we can't do that yet because what we're cutting is the core services. We're cutting police, we've cut fire, we've cut the schools, all right? We haven't cut to the bone, we've cut into the bone, and that's the effect of that is showing up now in our students with lower SAT scores, a smaller number of merit scholars, all right? The county is building in the next 5 years, projecting to build far more in apartments than single-family resident houses. It's going in the wrong direction.
I don't know how does that work out? Apartments, you do pay a tax. You pay an apartment renter's tax.
Well, of course.
But it's not as high as an individual residence. On the other hand, do you require more services? I guess you do.
Sure. It's the same. Whether you're living in a house or you're living in an apartment, okay? You're still gonna require police service, you're still gonna require fire, okay?
Well, now,
They're still gonna use the libraries if they're going to
one,
schools.
if they're just 1 or 2 bedroom apartments, though, you might have much smaller, more nuclear families, maybe only a husband and wife or a single person. And so then you wouldn't have children in school. You wouldn't have you wouldn't have need for those services.
Right, but they're gonna pay a smaller real estate tax base because they're not, because it's a smaller unit, all right, they're not paying the full fare on there, okay? And they're not utilizing those services, but they also don't have an investment in the community.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I've lived in my neighborhood for 27 years, and I guess it depends on the people, really. It's not whether you're...
There's variable factors, I agree, okay? But the point is that the county, all right, needs to get back to its core services and provide the police, the fire, the schools, the education.
So that's what we gain by embracing flat tax?
Yeah, what the flat tax is, again, it's a two-part. We're saying we can't afford any more real estate tax increases, but they're increasing real estate taxes by 4%. Just doesn't make any sense whatsoever, all right? That 4% is also generating a surplus that they will use for a $15 million pool. We're saying take that $15 million and reinvest it back in the social services programs because more people need assistance because they've lost jobs. Yes, we actually do have people who need food stamps. There was a comment on the board the other day, the exponential growth in people requiring social service programs, i.e. food stamps, which is not TANF, temporary aid to needy families, things like that.
But we have increased the size of the number of caseworkers. I know we have done that.
But it hasn't kept up with the number of people who need assistance, all right? The question being made was how could there be a fourfold increase in the people needing human services when there hasn't been a fourfold increase in the number of citizens in Prince William County? And the answer is those people have fallen under the safety net and they need those services. And there are people who do that. We're not funding it that much, okay? We're not funding it enough. So there's less in that pool.
So what needs to be done? What is it that we would have to do to utilize that flat tax?
The calculation is about $12 million, okay, of the $16 million surplus, all right, should be used to keep tax rates at what they were in the prior year, but keep up with the demand of services.
But how do we accomplish that?
Budget that money now, okay? If we know we're going to have $16 million in surplus at the end of the year, let's budget 12 of that 16 now and make sure we get towards that goal. Don't wait until August to say, oh, well, we have a $16 million surplus. What are we going to spend it on in fiscal 14? No. You generated that money in fiscal 13. We needed that money today. You didn't use it. But yet you told county taxpayers that's what they needed to pay.
So we're going to need to
reallocate the tax dollars. That's really what it is with smarter spending of tax dollars. All right? We're not proposing to cut anything. Our flat tax proposal is actually going to tell the school board, we're going to give you more than 56.75% because the school needs it. Now we're going to issue a challenge to them and say, well, you have to put more money into the classroom.
So what's our job? Yours and mine. What is our job? Is it to get people to believe what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Or engage the public?
Both. And engage the Board of Supervisors. Only 3 of the 8 supervisors have endorsed this idea. All right? So it's not going to pass this year. And the question is, why is it not passing? Let's look at the economics here. The economics are not working. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting different results, correct?
Yet we have some excellent people that work on the budget. I mean, they're very talented, intelligent people.
Absolutely. I have full faith in the staff that's developing. Frankly, it's got to be the 8 people on the board to make that decision that we have to spend taxpayer dollars in a different manner. Only 3 of them have accepted that proposal. You need 5, so therefore it's not going to happen.
Because it would not be popular, or what? Why? It sounds simple to me when you explain it. That they are collecting money that they say the county says they are going to use for core services, And then at the end of the year, they didn't use it, and they have this pot of money. So it seems very simple matter to just say, well, I don't know why you saved that in the first place, but since you did, let's buy a fleet of new police cars or something like that. That's not what we're doing with it, though, right?
Right, and we're not doing it because not enough people are saying and demanding that that's what we do.
So we should write our supervisors,
Call the
Call.
supervisors, okay?
attend budget meetings.
Absolutely, all right? And become part of the process, all right? If you're not part of the process, you're part of the problem. all
Well,
right?
no, each supervisor has the ability to have a budget committee, right?
Right, and only 3 of them actually have budget committees, all right?
I can think of 3 right off the bat.
Right, well, it's the same 3 I'm talking about, okay? There are 3 who have good budget committees, all right? The other 5 do not have budget committees. I just find that stunning. The school board this year decided that maybe they should have a budget committee. They do not even have a budget committee at the school board level. At least the Board of Supervisors has a budget committee at the board level, and then each individual supervisor has the opportunity to have volunteer citizen committees. Only 3 of them take advantage of that. The school board, prior to this year, it's stunning, didn't even have a budget committee at the board level. And now they're thinking about it. It may be a good idea. That's absolutely stunning.
Well, I don't know much about the school board, but I know I have a great school board representative, Lisa Bell, and she is trying to put together a budget committee, and and those people are addressing questions and sending them to be. But that's what all the budget committees do. We pick out questions and then send them to be evaluated. They're all available on the website.
Right.
But then what happens? Are we changing anybody's mind? Are we influencing anyone? Or here's a question that occurs to me is, I'm not, obviously not an economics expert. So if I suggest that they should put that $16 million back where it came from, or put it to the use it was intended, who am I to make such a recommendation?
You're a taxpayer. It's your money. It's not their money. It's your money. All right. The problem is you need to get you need to get me. We need to get a community of people to go to our supervisors and say, this is what we want. We need to change the process. Can't use those famous 7 words. We've always done it that way before, or we've never done it that way before. Or we keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. We're averaging $16 million a year, and that's good. Flat tax is saying, let's change the process and put that back into the county. Give it back to the citizens who have paid for it. They want the services.
Okay. Well, I'm going to round it. Is there anything you want to add right here at the end? Because we're just going to wrap this up.
I think we've discussed it very well.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you again for
Thank you. I
coming.
appreciate
It's always
it.
a pleasure having you here. Thank
you.
you very much for joining us tonight. If you would like to interview with us or come talk to us, please look at the information that's posted on the bottom of the screen and give us a call or send us an email, and we would love to have you on the show. Or you can just send us fan mail. That'd be great too. Our guest next week will be Kathy Bentz, and I look forward to seeing you again then.